What's up, YouTube? Capital G here, showing you guys the, well, what do we call this? Once again, not 100% sure what to call this deck because you use a lot of Yang Zings, you use zombies, you use evil Gishkis because they're pretty much the win condition, and then you use a ton of TGs in your extra deck, and you pretty much have to summon all of them. Honestly, I just called the deck New Cancer because it once again does not let your opponent play anything. The win condition of this deck is creating a game state where you've taken all your opponent's resources before they really get to play anything, and then you create this super powerful field that involves like a Quasar. So when they top deck that one card, almost certainly the card loses out to Quasar, and then Quasar will just kill them. And even if you somehow lost the Quasar, you still have actually a bunch of different resources anyways. It's a evil Gishki loop where you just cracking them as many times as you need to so that you can take their hand and send it back to their deck. And again, if they're dumb enough to max you, just keep on doing the combo and they will deck out 100% guaranteed. So people wanted to see this build, and here it is. The way that the deck operates is basically you start off with the zombies, you run things like Sage and Goblin Zombie Mizuki. It's a pretty standard zombie lineup, although you run a whole bunch of them. You kind of start out with the zombies. The zombies end up getting you to the Yang Zing Denlong, and then that kind of serves its purpose because what that does is it allows you to get things like Chiwin in the graveyard. It allows you to get like Shadow to your hand. At the same time, you will use this card to synchro into Excel Synchron, and then once you go into Excel Synchron, you're allowed to get Jet Synchron into the graveyard. At some point, you probably have gotten a Level Eater already in the graveyard. Level Eater is at 3. This deck is one of those degenerative, shitty decks that runs a whole bunch of draw support. Like, anytime that you see these cards in a deck, you have a degenerative piece of shit deck. Like, these are the only decks that play things like Enter the Void, Hand Destruction, Magical Mallets, 1 day apiece. If you see your opponent activate one of those, you know your opponent is a scumbag. Allure of Darkness is fine, Upstart is fine, but these other cards, only degenerative decks run these. So then essentially, you make your Formula Synchron and you start going into your TGs. You want to be able to bust out Halibut Cannon, and then at the same time, you need to be able to summon 2 copies of Dragonfly. That's why you run a bunch of like level 1 tuners like Chi Win and Jet Synchron, and then you run your Level Eater, which you probably will summon a dozen times in one turn. That's not an exaggeration. This card literally just gets summoned over and over and over again. It is not once per turn. I don't know why, but it is what it is. So yeah, you essentially after summoning your couple of copies of Dragonfly, you will go into the big 12s. You'll go into Halibut Cannon, and the way that you have to go into it is you will use Herald of the Pure Arc, or excuse me, Herald of the Arclight. I can never get this card's name right. Using Herald of the Arclight is how you end up digging these guys out of your deck, so you never really actually need to draw them. And Mind August plus Gus Kraken, those are the ways that you essentially win. Gus Kraken is a card that literally just takes resources from your opponent's hand before they play them, and Mind August is a card that makes it so that you never really run out of resources. You can keep going into your Halibut Cannons. You also run this guy right here, Ogre. You're only going to run level 6s. That's it. Don't run any other Gishkis that aren't level 6s because you need to be able to pitch one to summon the other one, and it doesn't matter the fact that they go to the graveyard because the Aquamarine will put them back in the hand, and then every time that you keep, every time that you resynchro, because you desynchro using this card, obviously, like, Arclight's effect will just keep on triggering. So this is the deck in a nutshell. It's a super convoluted, pseudo FTK. If you guys watched the video, I have it in the link. I'll have it in the link of this video, or excuse me, I'll have it in the description of this video. It'll basically show you the step-by-step process. This is very similar to playing like Magical Explosion or anything like that. Once you learn the loop, once you learn how to do the plays, it's kind of just a matter of memorizing them, and then kind of, in any given circumstance, just making sure that you get all the pieces. Because once you've got the pieces, outside of a few things like DD Crow or, man, I'm trying to think, like Ghost Ogre Snow Rabbit, you're going to win. You don't need to run any traps or anything like this because this is a complete win turn 1 or lose deck. It's very similar to like the Red Eyes FTK. You do not want to go second with this deck for obvious reasons because there is no spell and trap removal. Although I guess if you made a side deck, maybe you could take out things like Enter the Void and throw in like some Twin Twisters. A lot of these cards like Jet Synchron and and Level Eater. You don't even need them in your hand. Mizuki, you can just pitch them straight to the graveyard. But yeah, if you don't win turn 1, you're not gonna win. You know what I mean? This deck has a whole bunch of pretty extra deck cards, but none of them outside of Quasar are really they're not sustainable cards. They're not cards that are meant to last multiple turns. Quasar is the only card that actually has any type of defense for you. So if you don't win turn 1, pretty much just go ahead and scoop it up. But you should be able to win turn 1, assuming your opponent doesn't hit you with, like a random DD Crow or a Ghost Ogre Snow Rabbit or anything like that. Doesn't matter what deck they're running, if it's Monarchs or Cosmos or whatever, you're pretty much going to win. So people just wanted to see this deck. Here it is. Again, if you run this deck, you are the worst type of scumbag. But thank you guys for watching as always.